We are live with JP Gulbis, who's talking about the Latvian embassy, and Christian Kalb. So, Christian, before we get to your story, I don't want to let that one go. Tell us, why are you talking to the Latvian embassy, JP Gulbis? Well, yeah, are you escaping Canada?
No.
What is happening?
No. I'm just trying to get, like, you guys have multiple passports. I would
come right into the mic. Pull into the mic.
I would like a multiple passport, or I would like another passport. So that's what I'm doing. Trying to get my Latvian passport because my father was born there.
When did he come to Canada?
As a 1-year-old in World War II. He escaped with my grandmother and grandfather.
Met your mom here in Canada?
Yes. Yep.
It's funny how all of a sudden having multiple passports, not all of a sudden, this hasn't been but I feel like we're at a moment in time where if you have multiple passports, it's kind of an interesting thing, and definitely you feel a little bit more freedom having the opportunity to maybe move around to different countries.
Options.
Yeah.
Yeah. As things get crazy, but
so Latvia. Wow.
Yeah.
I feel like that's going to be a process for you. I feel like it's going to be a 2-year process to get that passport.
I got the form with all the documents I have to collect, which seems, it was funny because it came in like a flowery piece of paper with all this like calligraphy and like color and I don't even know where to start because my dad does not keep track of that stuff. He went back and was not impressed. And my aunt, who has...
Wait a second. Your dad went back and he wasn't impressed, so he went back to Latvia?
He went back to Latvia, I don't know, probably in the last 10 years or so on a vacation with friends, and they were doing a European kind of tour. And they're like, well, if we're going there, we're going to go to Latvia. And he just... He kind of like almost, I think he did kind of get, not mugged, but like taken advantage of a little bit, like in a cab or something. And then
taken advantage of?
Yeah. Like,
sorry, I know it's your father, like but you're going to have to give us more details.
I don't know the exact
the
details.
wording that you're using for this, he was taken advantage of in the back of a cab.
Yeah, I think they paid to like drive somewhere, and then the guy was like not driving them where they were supposed to be going or something like that. And then they were on a road, and somebody with like some dark Mercedes with tinted windows was flying down this alley, and they had to jump out of the way. My dad's already sensitive with speeding vehicles, so it was just he just didn't have a good time. But so when I told him that, I was like, well, I want to get my Latvian passport, because I was a kid. I was like, I wanted nothing to do with it, because they used to try to teach me how to speak Latvian, and coming from my grandmother, that was just a bad, it just, being taught by a family member it wasn't good. So anyway.
Yeah, as much as we all kind of rail on Canada sometimes, there's definitely good parts to Canada.
Oh, for
I remember
sure.
I was I guess I was mugged in Croatia, in Split, when I was like 8 years old or something like that. Our father, or maybe 10, maybe 12, I don't know, something like that. Our father took us over there. He was sitting in a cafe, and we went into the market to buy something, and it was really quiet. I guess we were there off season. I don't feel like it was tourist season. And I just remember wearing Ivan Lendl tennis t-shirts. I don't know if that name rings a bell for you, but when I was young, Ivan Lendl was this, I don't know if he was, I can't remember where he was from.
Czech.
Was he Czech?
Yeah.
And he was like, I feel like it was him and McEnroe that used to battle each other in tennis or whatever. And our father, I guess, was really proud that there was this guy from, Europe somewhere that was really good in tennis. And he bought us these Ivan Lendl t-shirts. And you could clearly tell they were like expensive tennis t-shirts. And no local kids were wearing these t-shirts. And we would run into this market, and we would start running back, and two kids bigger than me, but not that old. Like if I was 12, maybe they were 13. You know what I mean? Like they just stepped out of this little alley, and I'll never forget, the guy put his like finger, I feel like it was his finger under his shirt. I don't know if it was like a gun. I thought it was like a knife, and it was just like sticking out. And he basically said in Croatian, and I speak Croatian, so he was basically saying like, give me all the money that you have. And I was there with Nick. So if I was 12, Nick was like 7. So Nick isn't like he is now, where he would just smash the guy right in the head. So I just took all the money out of our pockets, and it wasn't that much, and gave it to the guy. And I remember we just like ran back to our father, and we said, we just got some guys just stole our money. We just got mugged. And I think my dad was just so proud to be in Croatia and be there. He's like, no, you didn't. No, that didn't really happen. No, and we're like, no, we totally just did. And we couldn't convince him that we just lost our money. Anyway, sorry, we're way off track here. But
yeah, but so he doesn't keep track of his documentation. He used to hate going to the States when we could go to the States, but because they would when you drive over the border, they'd like go to everyone else in the car and go, citizen of what country? And then they would get to my dad, and for some reason they'd always go, where were you born? And he hates like crossing borders. He hates that whole thing.
What's his first name? Maybe his first
John.
name. Oh, really?
Yeah.
John Gulbis? That doesn't seem like okay.
Yeah. But my aunt has, I think, like my grandmother's birth certificate and all that stuff, but she's older than my dad is, who, she's probably like 80 something.
Is Latvia they're not part of the EU, are they?
I think they are.
Okay.
I think they are.
I think so too.
Which is part of the appeal. So I could, with the horses too, it makes it easy if we ever wanted to do something over there. It makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, got it. Okay, so we started talking about this because Christian decided to do something rather interesting. So can you walk us through, what have you done? Tell everyone, how did you get to Panama? Tell us the story, and what have you done down there? And on what day did you do it? Give us the whole goods. What did you do? Why did you do it? When did this happen? How did it happen?
Okay, so why did I do it? Let's start with the why. So JP just mentioned...
Maybe tell everyone what you did really quickly so they know when you say why, what you've done.
Yeah, I obtained Panamanian permanent residency in Panama in August this year. So, you could say during the pandemic. So, 5 COVID tests and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but you also did it with a millisecond left on the meter to get it done.
Yes,
yeah,
that's true.
Walk us through. So now tell us why and get us right to the point of you getting it. Why did you do this?
Well, I've always been a macro kind of guy. I've traveled all my life. I lived in different countries. Traveling is in my DNA, and I always had this idea, when I get older, I want to plant some seeds down south in some tropical climate, and maybe have a property there with a pool, and that kind of dream. And so then this whole COVID thing kind of kicked in, and I'm like, okay, maybe this is a good time to take some action, right? And a friend of mine called me up. It's funny, we had a call, and I was trying to convince him to do a JV deal in St. Catharines. So I'm pitching this deal to him, like, yeah, we're going to, private lending and flip this thing and then refinance and do this and that. And then he's like, you know what, that sounds really interesting, but did you hear about the Panama residency program? The changes that are coming? And I'm like, what do you mean the changes that are coming? He's like, yeah, there's major changes on August 6th. You won't be able to, basically the minimum requirement for investments will change from 10,000 US to 200,000 US. So it's a 20x. And when he mentioned it to me, I was very aware of that program because 2 years before I was in Acapulco, Mexico, at a conference, and I met I talked to a company there. On the trade show floor, and what they basically offer is they offer packages where you can get residency and real estate in Nicaragua and Belize, and that's totally my thing. So I talked to literally every single person there, and I researched that whole Panama residency program. So when he told me that, I was like, yeah, I researched that. I know exactly what you're talking about. And he's like, yeah, it's August 6th, and I think the phone call was mid-June. So I'm like, well, how are we going to do this? And he's like, well, I don't know, but let's look into it. So we, the same day, applied for the RCMP police report. And my initial thoughts government of Canada, this is gonna take 8 weeks and we're screwed. There's no way we're gonna make this.
Because you need an RCMP. What's that? A background check from the RCMP?
Like a police report. Okay. And then basically just this major list of items, just one step at a time. Then, go to the Panamanian consulate in Toronto, which I drove to the wrong address. So they're not in Toronto anymore. They're somewhere in North York. It was just
gong show.
It was a gong show, and it was all last minute, and there were some doubts, right? But I'm like, what do I have to lose? Maybe you'll lose.
So what did you have to do with the Canadian Panamese consulate? Just apply to go to, because you had to go to Panama to do this.
Yeah, you had to physically go to Panama to do this, and that was another thing. So they told me it's 10 to 12 business days. You have to be in Panama in order to complete this process.
Oh, shit.
Right? So 10 to 12 business days in Panama. And then on the 12th or 13th day, that's when you get your passport back. So basically, the day you arrive, they take your passport, right? The law firm, they take your passport, and then you get it back 12 days later. So that was a whole other problem that I'm like, yeah, that's not going to work for me. You know, I can't be in Panama for 2 weeks.
And you were able to circumvent that?
Well, in the end, we were. I ended up going by myself. Your
buddy who gave you the phone call didn't do it?
Unfortunately, he wasn't able to
Okay.
go. Yeah, so I'm like, that's fine. I'll just go by myself, and I was able to do it in 8 business days.
So you get there, you meet with a law firm that's helping you go through the process. You give up your Canadian passport?
Yeah. So
dude, I don't like that.
Back up to how you got there.
How did I get there? So
what is he stuck in the trunk of a car somewhere that he drove down?
No, just his whole like the logistics are just fascinating. I love it. I love it. Yeah.
I'm trying.
So you left Toronto.
Well, first of all, so let's take a couple steps back. So RCMP report. It's COVID. It's going to take 6 to 8 weeks. So right off the bat, most people would have said like, well, it's not going to happen, right? Because I only had 6 weeks to like physically be there, like physically be in Panama at the immigration office. So, but we tried it anyway, and sure enough, we received it like three weeks into it. I didn't even have to call anybody or complain, nothing. So that was the first step. Then Panamanian consulate in Toronto, they had to verify a whole bunch of things. It's all bureaucracy, it's all red tape, stamp here, stamp there. I can't remember all the details, to be honest with you. It's a bit of a blur. And then so 3 days before the actual trip, at that time, I haven't sent a penny to Panama to the law firm because we were in correspondence with them. And my friend, he was basically like, yeah, I don't know. Even if we send them money, like, I don't know if this is going to work. And I'm like, well, if we don't send them the money, we're not making a commitment. So how can we expect them to basically say like, okay, we're going to help you out. And we're going to do this in eight business days, right?
How much money was it? Was it the full $10,000?
It was $13,000 US for 2 parcels of teak rainforest, like 1/4 acre in southern Panama. You're
owning this acreage? That's how this works? You're buying land in
Yeah,
Panama?
so I invested in it's a forestry program. So it's real estate, but you cannot develop it.
Okay. So you're contributing to some, rainforest of some sort, some forest in Panama.
In Panama. So it's like 8 hours.
It's like you're making a donation.
Well, no, it's an investment. Like in 20 to 25 years, I'll get a, there's a payday at some point.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They harvest it, right?
Yeah, they harvest it.
Oh, wow.
So you basically invest in the teak, and they plant the seeds, or they plant little trees, and then 20 years later they harvest, or 25 years later they harvest, and then you get paid. So you
own some teak trees in Panama right now?
Yeah. It's an inflation hedge.
Teak's expensive, man. That's some nice wood.
It is. Well, yeah. So that's the whole thing. So 2 years ago, when I researched this whole thing, I'm like, everything sounds great. Like there's no there's no drawbacks here. There's no risks, right?
So keep it here. We'll have our tequila. Let's have our tequila. Yeah, let's have our tequila. Yeah. Cheers,
Salud.
guys.
Salud.
Cheers.
Tom didn't go all the way.
No, it's a nice tequila. I can sip that thing.
Delicious.
So keep okay. So you make this investment through the law firm.
Yeah. So we're in touch with them, and then 3 days before we're supposed to go, I still haven't made a commitment. No wire transfer, no payment, nothing. Right. And that's when I call my friends. Like, you know what? I'm here at RBC in the parking lot. I'm doing this now. Right. Because there was still that uncertainty that we wouldn't be able to make it on time because the cutoff was August 6th. And if you didn't get it done by August 6th, then you basically lost your money, right? Like you didn't lose your money, but you're not getting the purpose of the residency.
Yeah, got it.
Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and then 3 days before, sent a wire transfer, and everything was last minute. I don't think I've ever done something so last minute.
So
in my life.
You wire the money to this law firm, then you book a flight?
No, I actually traveled standby because my partner, she works for an airline, so So I've been traveling standby for many
How
years.
do you travel standby? They get you on the standby list? I've never really purposely
Yeah.
booked a standby flight. You need to know
Well,
some...
you can't.
Okay,
Because
so
you have
because
to
she
be,
works for an airline,
Yeah.
you're on standby.
Yeah, so I know the system.
Dude, so you sent the money down, but you don't even have a guaranteed flight to go anywhere?
Exactly.
Oh my God. Holy crap. Okay. So you're standby in Toronto?
Toronto, yes.
To go where?
To go to Mexico City.
Okay. So
And then
you get on the plane, you get your standby seat.
Yeah, I got my seat.
What happened if you didn't get your seat? Were you prepared to pay to go somewhere else?
Yeah, I was prepared to do whatever
okay.
it took, but I know the system very well.
Okay.
So
So you get to Mexico City.
Wasn't
Yeah.
there a reason why you went to Mexico first, or was that just the only way to get there?
Oh yeah, the reason why I went to Mexico is because of the flexibility with the COVID restrictions.
Right.
So you can enter Mexico without COVID tests, without PCR tests. There's nothing. So in November last year, I went to Mexico for 2 weeks on vacation, and I'm like, this is great. Like, there's no requirements, nothing. So I looked at the map. I'm like, yeah, might as well connect to Mexico City. So flew to Mexico City, had a connection there, and then I had to provide a negative rapid test.
Okay.
In Mexico City at the Copa Airlines counter.
Okay. That's like a 15-minute antigen test, probably not a PCR test.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So you provided that.
Yeah.
And then that's a flight to Panama now?
And that's a flight to Panama City. Yeah.
Okay.
And that was a red eye. And then, so I,
Oh, God.
Yeah, red eye,
How long
yeah.
is the flight from Mexico City to Panama City?
not that long, maybe 4 hours or
Okay.
something. Yeah. And then, arrive in Panama City, barely slept. And then, go check into my hotel, and then pretty much within an hour, go straight to the law firm, because like time was just ticking, right? Like every minute, every hour that went by, it was like, oh man, am I going to make this? So walked in there, put the cash on the table because I had to pay the law firm. They haven't even received a payment, right? And then they took my passport, and I asked her, like, do you have confidence like this you're going to make this happen? She's like, you know what? We have a lot of people right now that I'm trying to squeeze through, but we'll do our best.
What? Why do they have to take your passport? That's showing some sort of commitment to the country of Panama that you're staying?
Yeah, because there was more involved. So there was a Panamanian bank account that had to be set up, a Panamanian corporation, and then they eventually submit everything to immigration, Migración Panama. So if it's not immigration, it's the bank or somebody else, some entity that had to have your passport. So.
Okay, got it. So it's not because you couldn't leave. It's because they needed that legal document to show the banks or whoever.
Yeah, and you couldn't leave. You had to.
And you also couldn't leave.
You had to physically be there. Yeah, so I had to physically go to the bank. Like, I had multiple appointments, but I didn't know when my appointments were. So I was like waking up in the morning in my hotel room, and I'm just like waiting. Like, okay, where am I going today?
And
like,
the law firm calls you and says, go to this
yeah,
bank.
they WhatsApp. Everything's on WhatsApp, and it's like, yeah, today.
WhatsApp, that's not very secure. Christian, that does not sound like
It's
you.
encrypted.
They're not using Signal?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
part of.
I'm sure WhatsApp's really encrypted.
It's part
Straight to Zuckerberg's phone where he's reading
I
exactly
know.
where Christian is.
FBI book.
Oh, look at Christian. He's in Panama right now
Yeah, I
getting his
know.
Panamese residence status.
Enemies. So WhatsApp. WhatsApp.
Yeah, okay. So WhatsApp.
Yeah, so every morning it's just like, okay, where am I going? What am I doing? And yeah, today you're going to the bank. You're meeting with Maria, and Maria's going to do this for you. And then the next day, a few days, there was nothing on the agenda, but I didn't know. So
Did you reach out to them and say, hey, man, like I'm here. Is there anything I should be doing?
Of course.
But what did they say? Stand down?
It was so last minute, and there were so many people, and it makes sense. During COVID, like you said in the beginning, these times right now, I'm not the only one interested in applying for residency. So there were a lot of people that were aware of these changes, and maybe not as many people made it down there because it was complicated and, inconvenient. But there were a lot of people. Like, basically every second person I met at the hotel was there for the same reason, to get to.
Where were the other people from?
A lot of Americans, a lot of Canadians. I met a Latvian couple.
Is that right?
Yeah,
No
I
way.
met a Latvian couple, Czech from the Czech Republic. from
JP,
Prague.
these Latvians are
I
trying to
know.
get out of Latvia over here. You're trying to get into Latvia. See how the world works?
Yeah, but I wanted to say something to Latvia. If you go to Latvia now, I think you're going to be positively surprised, because the whole Eastern Bloc it's changing, because it's all cyclical as.
Oh, 100%.
As you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
it's more like economically free environment than
It
in
is.
other areas.
Yeah.
The wounds are still fresh, right? Well, we don't have any over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the weird thing. And Christian, we'll come back to that. That's the weird thing about going over to Europe. It's just there's so many hundreds of years of history baked into the people there that we don't have here. Like over there, someone can look at that hill over the horizon and say, see that hill over there? My grandfather's grandfather's grandfather owned that hill. And if anyone tries to take that hill, I'm going to attack them and fight for that hill. Where here in Canada, nobody really says that. Everyone's like, I'll just sell my property.
Yeah,
hey,
but
Christian, you want to buy my property? I'll sell it to you. But they're like, I am willing to die. See that hill? I'm willing to die on that hill over there. It's really weird.
We also haven't been invaded by
agreed.
Russia and Germany yet. So
Agreed. Yeah. They're going to stand for that. And it's just passed down from generation to generation. It's just baked into the society, into the social fabric there. So back to you. You're in Panama. Mm-hmm. You're meeting the Canadians. What age are the people that you're meeting in this hotel that are also doing this?
That was actually all over the map.
Okay.
Yeah. There were people about to retire.
Anyone there with their kids?
Very few.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's another thing. So for myself, it was too late because one of the objectives for me was to get the residency for my 2 daughters as well. But they basically said to me, like, if you come down here on your own, it's already going to be like very tight. So there's no way we can process your kids.
To get to kind of junior or adolescence in here.
There was no time. But they basically said, once you get your residency, then next time you come down, as a permanent resident, you can apply for them. So basically, it's a 2-step process. But
okay, so you're in the hotel. Are you going out, seeing the sights? I don't know. Panama City, where am I? Am I on the coast or am I not on the coast?
Panama City is... there's no beaches in Panama City. So a lot of people call Panama City like, the Miami of Central America. And I get that comparison, but there's no beautiful beaches. But other than that, Panama City definitely has a bit of that Miami vibe. Panama Canal, obviously, right?
Yeah,
so,
got it. Okay.
Yeah.
I see. Holy, yeah, you're
Oh,
really,
for
we're
some
just looking
reason
at a
I
map now. You're really...
I thought it was on the Caribbean, not on the other side.
No.
Wow.
You're but so looking at the map here.
Yeah, you can't see we're looking at a map.
So strategically, Panama is a fantastic location because you're to the north, you're bordering Costa Rica, which is probably the most prosperous and most thriving country in Central America, and then you have Colombia on the other side.
Yeah,
right. So you're not surrounded by, let's say, Honduras and,
yeah, got it.
I don't want to say El Salvador because they're doing a lot of good things right now.
Huh. Wow. Yeah, El Salvador is north of you. Nicaragua's north
Yeah,
of you.
Panama, it doesn't...
Honduras
to me,
is north. Yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily feel like Central America. It feels more like South America.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of Colombians, there's a lot of Venezuelans.
Got it.
So it feels more like South America.
Wow. Very cool.
But a modern, sophisticated version.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. So days go by, and then what? You get the call, come to this embassy or something there, or not embassy?
Yeah, it was
I don't
just
know.
a bunch of appointments, and then there was one day that I had to go to the immigration office, and it was literally just to show my face. But it's it's a government agency,
Sure.
so you basically show up in the morning and you have no idea like how long it could take. So I show up there and obviously it's super hot, and I show up in shorts, right? And they didn't let me in.
What?
They didn't let me in. You had to wear
dress
pants. Yeah, there was a dress code.
Whoa.
So here I am freaking out. I'm like just sweating. I had to take a cab to the mall, buy a pair of jeans, come back, and then I end up sitting there for like 5.5 hours. And you don't do anything. And it was so packed. There was no seat. There was no seating available. So
because it was just jammed with people like you trying to get last. And
Jammed.
is this the last day you could get it that you're in this thing?
Yeah, I was there on August 5th. And
and
August 6th, the changes kicked in.
Okay, so it's jammed on August 5th, and you're just leaning against a wall in a sweaty room.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it was pretty interesting.
5.5 hours go by, and then what? They call you, and you speak to someone.
they called me, and that's where I finally
Are you speaking English at this point in here?
Spanglish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your Spanglish is good.
My Spanglish is pretty good.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
And at that point, so at one point, one of the representatives from the law firm shows up. It's like, hey, like, wake up, 30 minutes, like, look at your ticket number, right? And that's when I met 19 others that were there in the same office, but like scattered, like 19 gringos basically, because everybody else they were all Latinos. So you couldn't really, it wasn't like they were all white guys like myself. It was all Latinos, Venezuelans, El Salvadorians, whatever. And then they lined everybody up, and it's like, okay, in 5 minutes, your ticket's going to be pulled, and then you got to go here.
Sounded like they lined you up to shoot you. They lined us all up, and they were just going to shoot us down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they lined you up, and your ticket's called, and then what? You go to this person, and what do you say?
They took a picture of me.
That's it?
Yeah.
Did you have to say, like, Panama is amazing?
I
feel like when I got my Croatian citizenship, I had to say something great about Croatia.
Yeah.
In Croatian.
Did you?
Yeah. It was really awkward. It was really awkward.
Did you have to eat a cevapcici?
No, I didn't. But I did actually have to say, like, something about Croatia. I'll never forget that. It was really weird. I was in a room one-on-one, like a little kind of almost like a little interrogation room. We were in Mississauga at the Croatian consulate there.
Interesting.
And they closed the door, and I had to write something too. And I can speak it, but I don't write it. So I had to write a sentence too. It was really awkward. I don't think they do that anymore. This was like 10, 12 years ago.
But, Croatia is actually, I think the population of Croatia is just like Panama. It's like about 4 million. So it's like a small country.
Totally,
right?
yeah.
So they have their own little traditions.
So they take a picture of you, and then what? You just leave? They give you some paper?
And, I had to sign some stuff, take a picture.
Did balloons fall? Did some streamers
No,
come
it
out?
was honestly, it was just a government agency, and it was...
Was the person miserable?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This sounds legit. Sounds legit.
But they had AC, so I
good.
was pleased.
Okay.
Yeah, I was pleased.
Take the picture. Does the law firm now what? You go back to the law firm the same day, the next day?
No, and then and that was the stressful part, because so now I'm here. It's August 5th. I'm like super excited, super happy. Like, okay, we got it all done, but they still have my passport.
Yeah.
Because they still have to process. There's some stamps and some visas, and I didn't ask all the questions. It's like, okay, when am I getting my passport back? That's all I really cared about. And they're like, well, we're going to try our best. I mean, it's the same answer every time, right? There's no definitive, like, on Monday at 2 p.m. Like, no, it was always, we'll do our best. And
it sounds very Latin American.
Yeah, but honestly, they pulled it off.
Yeah.
They did it.
So when did you get it?
2 days later. 2 days later, and it was a Friday. And I was so nervous. I'm like, I can't afford to be here for another weekend. I had to go back home. 17 reasons why I had to go back home. I had a whole bunch of projects, family commitments, and they delivered. They pulled it off. And
how happy were you to get that Canadian passport back? I know you were there for the Panama resident status, but you were happy to get that Canadian.
I was very happy to get it back. But with the stamp, and then I got my card. I got my temporary
resident status in Panama.
Yeah, my physical green card basically, and that was amazing. Amazing feeling.
So now you can enter Panama as a permanent resident of Panama at any time.
Yeah, I can live there. I can work.
So you're not a citizen.
No, a permanent resident.
You're a permanent resident, so you have the ability to open bank accounts. You can operate as a fully functioning individual.
Yeah, I have a Panamanian bank account.
Yeah,
I have a Panamanian corporation. I have, I own the real estate, the teak land.
Yeah. And, anyone listening, if anyone needs some nice teak floors, you know who to call.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be
years.
It'll be wild. Yeah, it's a tiny floor right now. It can only cover a little bit. Maybe a teak little mouse pad of some
it's
sort.
a 25-year wait list.
Coaster.
Yeah. But and then I just applied for my Panamanian credit card.
Oh, cool.
So that's in the pipeline because I'm a bank customer.
Okay,
so
that's debt, dude. I thought you didn't like debt. Come on. Screw the credit card.
Well, I'm trying to establish.
You'll take the fiat garbage debt.
Yes,
I get you. I'm on to you. Okay.
Fiat garbage debt.
Can you vote? Probably not.
No, a permanent resident in Canada,
no.
you have to be a citizen.
No.
Unless Panama's different.
But politicians are the same everywhere anyway,
sure.
so it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter.
But so I'm applying for my credit card right now, which I should get because I have a bank account and I left some US dollars there. So yeah, and what else? I met a really interesting real estate agent, Canadian real estate agent down there. So we looked at real estate whenever I was bored. Went to the former Trump Tower, JW Marriott.
The former Trump Tower? It's no longer the Trump Tower?
It's the JW Marriott.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, and some really interesting condos. Like it's a city. I'm not a city guy, but I have to say Panama City is a cool city. Like I walked around every day, all day. I didn't get bothered once. Didn't get harassed once. I mean, honestly, it was a very interesting time too because they had curfews in place
Because of COVID?
because of COVID. It was 11 p.m. curfews, so most places shut down at 10. Right, in order to send their staff home on time and shut down properly. So yeah, there were times when I'm literally like by myself in this big city, big buildings, and just by myself walking around. There's barely any tourists, and nobody bothered me. It was safe. It's pretty clean.
And the goal for this now is that you can travel there anytime should you want to. You mentioned you were at a conference in Acapulco 2 years ago. By the way, I didn't think anyone went to Acapulco anymore. I used to go to Acapulco all the time. It's turning into a bit of a dangerous area, Acapulco.
No, that's the mainstream media.
I don't know. There was a dead body outside my buddy's condo.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I was in Acapulco.
Actually, it was a beheaded. It was a beheaded. Yeah, it was a beheaded dead body. It was one gang sending a message to another gang. It happened to be right outside. It's actually one of Nick's buddies.
Really?
Yeah, right outside the condo.
Interesting.
But
that's internal mafia stuff, right?
Yeah.
Cartel stuff.
But still, I mean, I went there as a university kid. I didn't want to see dead bodies. So now that I know that.
Well, I left the cartel game like 12 years ago.
Did you?
So yeah, I'm good.
You got out?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, good for you. So, but in Acapulco, when you mentioned you were at that conference and learning about these different citizenships and that kind of stuff, was Panama like a highly rated place?
Yes.
It was.
It was at the time, and it still is.
And the reason would be just because of the freedoms that exist in Panama? It's a safe country. There's property rights.
Yes, property rights, 100%. Safety is a big thing. It is Central America, but generally from what I've seen, I was there in 2017 as well. So I did get to see a little bit more than just Panama City. So generally I would say it's pretty safe. It's pretty clean. It's basically like sort of like Costa Rica. Costa Rica is maybe cleaner, maybe a little bit greener, a little bit more gringo friendly, so to speak. But Panama is a lot more affordable than Costa Rica, so the cost of living is a lot.
Got it.
Yeah.
So bank account, credit card, you have status there. You can buy property beyond the teak if you want to. You have a corporation there. Why do you keep saying corporation? Why is that important?
That is important because depending on what I do in the future, I have a Panamanian corporation, and there can be some tax benefits there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, got it. And you said property rights because it's important to have property rights where if you buy something there, it's going to be honored and you can protect the property.
Yes. And they basically do business. So they have their own local currency, but it's kind of nobody really uses it because it's pegged against the US dollar. So it's all US dollar. It's just a very business friendly city. It's a Panama Canal. You have a lot of it's kind of like the Miami of Central America from a business perspective. It's a hub. It's an international hub. Even the airport.
There's money flowing through there.
There's money.
Wasn't there that big corruption case of all the Canadians and people all around the world?
Yeah, the Panama Papers.
The Panama Papers. What was that? People were hiding their money in Panama?
Yes.
Were they hiding it with you, Christian?
No,
you're recent.
No comment. No comment.
Wasn't there something that just came out about all this stuff?
Yeah, there was.
The last couple of days.
Yeah. I think those papers came out a few years ago, but then now some of the information got released.
Yeah.
Whatever.
But you got to at least finish about how you got home.
How did I get home?
Do you book a flight standby back to Mexico City?
Oh man, so getting home was interesting. So that morning I didn't know if I'm going to get my passport back, right? So I'm nervous. I'm not in the best state of mind at that point, and I didn't want to push too hard, right? Because it's all about long-term relationships, and I had a feeling that I'm going to be dealing with these people again, and they were great, by the way. So if anybody wants to, I can provide contact information if you want to contact me or whatever. So they were really good. They were very efficient. I was very impressed. So I didn't want to push their buttons too much. And then I think it was 3 p.m. I got the message, come to the office, pick up your passport. It just came in. Okay, great. Take a cab to the airport and just try to figure out, okay, how am I getting home, right? So I knew I had to go through the U.S. So I knew I had to get a rapid test done at the airport. Luckily, there was no lineup, so get that done. It was negative. Flew to, I think it was Washington Dulles. Yeah, flew to Washington Dulles with my negative test. Arrived there, had to sleep at the airport like overnight. Then ended up, what was
For Canada, you needed a PCR.
Yeah, but there was another issue. Oh yeah, the whole thing, the quarantine hotel thing was still going on at the time.
Oh shit! In Canada.
So I had to get
God.
So my goal. Yes, now I remember. My goal was to get to Buffalo. My goal was to get to Buffalo.
Oh, and then come across the land border.
And walk across the border.
Okay.
So
I like it. I'm on board.
Yeah. So, and that was another thing. It was just a matter of a few days, and they changed all the rules, right?
Because then the quarantine hotel thing went away.
But it didn't work for me.
So did you get to Buffalo?
So yeah, I had to. So Panama City to Washington, Washington to Detroit, Detroit to Buffalo, and then from Buffalo I crossed the border.
Walking?
I walked the bridge.
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
So you presented yourself now as a Canadian citizen to the customs officer.
Yeah.
Well, they're not used to people. I guess they got used to people walking. A lot of people were walking that bridge.
There must have been. On that particular day, there were 4 or 5 other people.
Yeah, and before there was never anyone walking across the bridge.
Maybe a couple of days.
So you guys are walking across.
Yeah, walking across, and completely exhausted. Right. I love traveling, and I don't mind like doing the red eyes and stuff. But at that point, it was
you were beat down.
You can see Canada, Canada.
Yeah.
Home.
So the customs officer says, what's your citizenship? You present your Canadian passport.
Yeah, and then they walked me into this tent, this COVID tent, and they gave me the 2 tests. So I had to
take home, right?
To take home, but I had to do a test at Buffalo Airport. So one test in Panama City, which was a rapid test, negative. Now I can enter the U.S. Now eventually I get to Buffalo. Now I have to do a PCR test, which was like $280. Ridiculous.
Yeah, and how fast did you get that back? That's the fastest is like 3 hours.
Within 1 hour.
No.
Buffalo Airport, yeah. 200
PCR in 1 hour?
Yeah, 100.
Wow, that's the fastest I've ever heard of.
Yeah, $280 inside the terminal.
Wow.
Yeah, and then take a cab, drop me off at the bridge, walk across the bridge. Then they give me 2 other COVID tests. And they're like, oh, you can do them at home. It's like, well, why are you here? Let's do one here right now. And then I did one there, and then
I like that. You're giving them shit. Good for you.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. Hazmat suits and everything, of course.
No.
Right? Oh yeah.
Hazmat suits?
Yeah, completely out of control. But anyway,
they were wearing hazmat
in
suits?
the COVID tents. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay.
And and then I got home. I'm home.
So they let you out of the tent. And then what, you call an Uber? What's the last leg?
The last leg. Yeah, the last leg. Yeah, I think it was, yeah.
And then you just went to Longo's and bought some groceries?
No, absolutely. I went to a nightclub. Yeah.
Oh, man. So you get
So five tests. The entire trip was five COVID tests.
Yeah, this past summer, I took 10 flights with the family. We're very experienced in antigen and PCR tests.
Yeah.
Some were with my 81-year-old father.
Ooh.
Yeah,
wow.
I went to Croatia for a wedding. He wanted to go.
Good
so
for him.
we went. Yeah.
81 years old. Wow.
81.
Good for him.
Still healthy. Doesn't take any medication. Runs around the neighborhood in my old high school T-shirt that says Pocock Pirates on it. He does he punches the air while he's running because it's his old karate days. So he punches and runs, and he runs in old Air Jordans, but also with silk dress socks. So the whole neighborhood knows him. In Mississauga, where we grew up, he still lives in the same spot. All the neighbors know him. And new neighbors are moving in, so I think they're shocked when they see this guy. But
he basically runs the neighborhood.
Yeah, I think.
Way.
Well, in a way, because I think people are slightly scared of him.
He's like a neighborhood legend.
Yeah, they don't know what to make because he comes down the street. Literally, sometimes one of my friends will be like, "I just saw your dad again." He's on Fieldgate in Mississauga, punching the air as he's lightly jogging. I'm like, "Oh, good, he's still doing his running." Okay,
that's
good.
great.
But okay, so you get home, you have this thing, you did it. Holy shit!
Yeah, and then two weeks quarantine.
So you've accomplished a big thing because I think for years, from knowing you with our casual conversations, this was something you wanted to accomplish. Like you were going to conferences, I don't know if it's like sovereign man type conferences or that kind of thing, right? Like this has been your thing.
Yeah, libertarian and anarchy. And I know people are going to be like, anarchy, oh my God. Like, Google the word anarchy and educate yourself on it. It doesn't mean what you think it means. But
I think you mean respecting other people's property and respecting other people as a person and just kind of living your life a little bit more free than under massive government regulation. Yeah,
less government is more. So, for the people. And libertarian mindset, but anarcho-capitalist is another word, right? Basically, you are responsible for your actions, right? If you start a business and you fail, then you have to, deal with the consequences and you learn from your mistakes and you start again. And, there's not someone that's constantly going to bail you out or, from that perspective.
So what now, and you alluded to it when we were talking about things with the macroeconomic environment. You have this for a purpose. You believe possibly things get choppier from here economically, politically, and that's why you like having this. What are some of your thoughts?
That's definitely one thing. I have a German passport too. So born in Canada, but my dad was German. So I lived in Germany for 13 years, have German residency or citizenship, right? So with that passport, I actually lived in Ireland for a year and a half, and it was like the coolest experience. Like I remember I landed in Dublin, and there's this immigration booth, and I'm getting all prepared with my folders and passports, and I'm ready to talk to this guy, and literally everyone's just raising their passport just so he can see the front cover, and German passport, just keep going. I'm like, yeah, but I'm moving here. Don't you want to see, like, don't I get a stamp or something? He's like, go in. And that's how I lived there for a year and a half. And I entered, I traveled like every 2 months during that time. And it was the same thing every single time. So I'm like, I really reaped the benefits of, having that citizenship, right? That passport. So that's the one thing. So like JP said, having more options, the more options, the better in general, right? But now with everything that's going on, I do believe that it's even more important, right?
So now then you're also into the Bitcoin stuff, and what other stuff? So you're into Bitcoin, and likely because it's a different form of, it's somewhere you can put it's something you can own that's perhaps outside of government control. I'd imagine that's why you 100%, like Bitcoin. Yeah. And then what else? You're into some of the other altcoins as well?
Yeah, I'm pretty deep into cryptos in general. But one thing that's kind of overlooked a little bit is privacy coins.
Okay. Because I feel like you're the kind of guy just talking to you that you would be a Bitcoin guy. Like it's Bitcoin or nothing. But getting to know you, you're like, no, there's Bitcoin and you're doing some other stuff. So it's because of privacy?
Yeah. So basically with cryptocurrencies, there's different strategies or different categories, right? So Bitcoin is the number one store of value. It's the number one, reserve currency of cryptos. So it's, some people call it digital gold. It's obviously better than...
It's more than that.
It's more than that. It's better than that. But it's a good explanation, like, okay, this is the type of cryptocurrency it is. So if you want to store wealth and like you mentioned many times, it's like a savings account. It's the best savings account you can have.
It's like a modern day savings account. And just before we go further, when we say it's more than that, it's because there's a monetary network that Bitcoin has where you and I, we can actually send Canadian dollars to US dollars using Bitcoin as a network and not even the asset at all. So Bitcoin is more than gold, because gold is just this physical asset, but Bitcoin is like, there's a full Bitcoin node sitting on the desk right here. Mm-hmm. So there's thousands of nodes around the world that are creating a network where you and I, you can be in Panama, you and I can set up a lightning channel between each other. Mm-hmm. We can send funds back and forth to JP in Latvia, to me here, or me in Croatia, you in Panama. No one can stop us. Yeah. We can transfer funds between each other. And by funds, I'm saying in this case, Bitcoin. No one can stop us.
Yeah,
we can have that security that I know I can pass some value over to Christian. Christian can pass it to JP. JP can pass it to me. Yeah. The power of that type of monetary network has not existed in the world. We've always had to go through central bodies, either banks or governments, central banks, to do that kind of action. We can completely bypass it entirely.
Yeah.
So when we say it's more than gold, it's because the network that is being built is actually more fascinating to me than anything. And on top of that, Bitcoin as an asset and the price of one Bitcoin, et cetera, it continues to rise, which is great. But it's this network that's blowing my mind. And then there's people like Jack Mallers building the with his Strike application, where you can send US dollars to somebody in Europe. They're getting whatever you send as US dollars, they're getting it in euro. And he's using the Bitcoin network just as a mechanism to send it over to Europe. So they're not even using, they're not even putting Bitcoin in and out. They're just using the Bitcoin network to send the transaction over to Europe. Like, I mean, this stuff is fascinating. When you go down this rabbit hole, it's like mind blowing. But the reason you're beyond that is because primarily or one of the reasons, privacy.
Well, Bitcoin, one thing I want to add to that is you don't have to ask for permission, right? I don't like asking for permission for anything really, right? So that's a big one. You don't have to line up at BMO or whatever and like, hey, can you give me $10,000? Like, well, we can only give you $5,000. Like, well, why? It's
Come
my
back
money.
next Friday. What's the reason that you want your money, Christian? I love that one.
I mean,
what is the reason that you want your money?
I go into the bank with my paper bills and pay them just to spite them, because I know they get so, and I open all the envelopes in front of them because
yeah, good.
Oh my God. But these are just some bank employees. They're not the enemy.
I know, but it's fun.
It gives you a personal sense of satisfaction.
It does, because they just rape you, and I just love making them work.
But you know what? I'm starting to feel sorry for them because they have no idea what's coming.
Yeah.
They have no idea.
Some of them do. Some of them do. But you're right. Yeah.
But
Bitcoin's eating the financial world. They don't see it coming. Sometimes the head of CIBC is a Croatian guy. His brother is a few years older than me, so some of my friends that were a few years older hung out with him. And his brother is the current CEO of CIBC, and he was in Croatia this summer, apparently having dinner with some people I know. So I just felt like every time I had the opportunity, I would tell someone who I knew was having dinner, saying, hey, tell these guys that these guys are screwed. Their whole system is going to come around crashing around them. They don't even see it. Can you please pass that message around to the CEO of CIBC? But then I thought, you know what? Actually, I take that back. I don't even want them to know. Let them figure it out for themselves.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing is they're going to be one of the last ones to get in. They're going to get in when it's like $500,000 of Bitcoin.
Yeah, they're it's interesting when you talk to people from Bay Street here in Canada. So if it's a Bay Street lawyer or a Bay Street investment banker, they are doing so well for themselves financially. Like the system has rewarded them so wonderfully that it is impossible for them to compute that Bitcoin represents something more than, maybe it's going to be an asset of some sort. But I find many of them, not all, but many of them that I cross paths with are completely dismissive. And if you say that you're into this Bitcoin thing, it's almost like you're either a pirate or an anarchist, or, you just don't understand the system. But the system has rewarded them so well. They kind of live in this echo chamber bubble, and they don't see what's being built around them. So Christian, to your point, many of them are going to be the last to know. It so reminds me of when MP3s just upended the music industry. Like Napster came out. I don't know if you guys are too young to remember. Like I was downloading stuff on Napster, and then I just remember thinking, wow, this is like way better than going to HMV or, and buying stuff. Download any song that you wanted, and a few years later, the whole music industry just got turned upside down.
Yeah,
it's the same. It seems like it's the same with the media, like the mainstream media. They completely dismiss things like this. They get a lot of attention and listens, and it's almost like, but their viewership is like, it has to be supported by the government just to survive, because no one watches. It's the same the old guard. Like, it's just.
Yeah, and it is interesting to me. I mean, there's some really smart people that have been here. Like Fernando was here recently, and he was talking about how the mainstream media does represent some good information, and it's the majority, and we should listen to it. And I love having someone like him on, because he is so articulate and thinks so clearly, I think, and his views are interesting to me because they're so opposed to my views.
Right.
So I always admire someone who comes from that. I don't agree,
right,
but it is interesting to me that there are many people who think, because you're saying, the media is basically useless, and I kind of agree with that, but there's many people who
Wow.
No, you're right.
don't agree with that.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that still tune in and take every word for gospel.
Yeah.
There's
It's not media anymore. It's straight up propaganda.
Yeah.
Oh
And
shit!
let's-
Here we go,
let's-
Christian.
let's-
You
let's
lay
keep
it
it
down.
real.
Let's
Let's
keep
keep
it
it
real.
real.
Okay, you tell us. You straight.
No, I mean we don't have to go down that rabbit hole, but it's become a propaganda machine.
So
It's a modern day propaganda
it's
machine.
feeling that way. It's definitely to me feeling that way. You know, when like if I was in the media, in the financial media, and I was currently reporting the CPI number, I couldn't report our inflation numbers with a straight face.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no, like to report CPI is 2% or 4%. I think August it was really high at like 4.1% or whatever. And property prices year over year are going up. Property prices are going up like 8% in a month or whatever. And you know, year over year they're up like 25%. And to report that CPI is up 4%, where gas, like I don't know what gas is up.
Yeah, but it's
Energy-
not a real CPI. It's
no,
a
no,
fake
we-
CPI
we
to
agree,
begin with, right?
We agree. I totally agree, and it's based on a substitution model. And I love reading their details. If you dive into the Bank of Canada's explanation of CPI, they're like, it's not an accurate measure of the cost of living. That's actually in their documentation, and the reason they say it is actually that their consumers will substitute goods. So they can never get true CPI. So like if Christian, you walk into the store and you're looking to buy coffee, but coffee went up in price, you'll just buy tea instead. And they're looking at that as like, you know, CPI can never really track Christian what he's going to buy. But I call just bullshit on that, because I'm like, if CPI is not measuring that coffee went up, why would you measure that tea is cheaper than coffee and replace the coffee for tea? I don't get it.
Yeah.
It's just a kind of a bullshit number. So if I worked in the media having to report this stuff, I couldn't even have a straight face about it.
Yeah.
Like it's just it feels like bold-faced lying at this point.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't even feel inaccurate. It feels like lying. Like that's what I feel like. When I hear the CPI at this point, I don't even feel like it's not accurate. I feel like it's a lie.
Yeah.
Like I feel like
that's
we've
most things though that you.
Yeah, but I feel like
know.
for years it was like, oh, that's kind of bullshitty. The CPI number's a bit bullshit. Now I just feel like it's straight a lie. You know, but we're way off track now. So tell me about your privacy coins.
Well, yeah. So one thing I wanted to mention. So Bitcoin is actually a surveillance coin.
Oh, here we
Uh-oh.
go.
Oh.
Yeah,
But I'm
here
not-
we go. Here we go.
I love Bitcoin. I own Bitcoin. I actually just ordered myself like this interesting heating mining device. It's called Heatbit.
Oh, cool.
So I'm gonna be mining Bitcoin. I think. I hope.
So why is it because you can track the movement of it?
Everything can be tracked, and that's one of. There's pros and cons about that, right? But privacy coins, and that's what I was trying to explain earlier. So within the cryptocurrency world, there's different categories, and my conclusion after doing a lot of research is, you know, if you want to be an investor, it comes down to diversification. So you want to be invested in different categories. So you want to own Bitcoin is like the ultimate crypto.
Sure.
You want to own as much of it as possible, right? That's the ultimate store value, your ultimate savings account. But you want to invest in smart contracts. So, you know, you have Ethereum, you have Cardano, you have Cosmos, you have then on the privacy side, there's a privacy version of that called Dero, D-E-R-O. It's basically just like any other smart contract platform, but it's all based on privacy. So then with you know, currencies, for example, Monero, that's basically like digital cash, like, you know, like Litecoin or Bitcoin Cash. So that's the privacy version of that. So let's say we all know here that the CBDCs will be introduced sooner or later. China's ahead of the game. They're already kind of implementing it here and there. So it's going to happen. It's part of the agenda. It will happen. And at that point, you know, our privacy as far as monetary, as far as, you know, it'll be gone. It'll be
Monero,
gone.
you like Monero because it's more private. What am I giving up? So it can't be tracked as easily, but what am I giving up? Is it more centralized? Like the whole thing for me about Bitcoin that I love is how decentralized it is.
Yes.
And the proof of work aspect of it, I love because nobody can then control it without putting up some work to be involved in the network. Some of these other things I feel like are a little centralized, a little too controlled. For like if I'm trying to leave a fiat system that I feel is very centralized and controlled, I don't want to go into a digital representation of that. Are some of these coins centrally controlled.
And that's the thing. There's so many different coins. There's so
I
many
know.
tokens.
So
And
pick one that you like and tell me.
There's even some that are more, I would say, more centralized that I would still invest in them because I see the value, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they have a different purpose or a different use case. But I like Monero because it's been around since 2014, which in this space, like 7 years, that's incredible, right? So it's probably the number one privacy coin. The number two privacy coin.
But if I buy a bunch of Monero, is there a guy that I can go to and say, hey, man, if you don't shut this thing down, you're going to jail? Like, how is it?
Well, it's private. You can't be tracked.
But who's controlling the amount of Monero that exists?
It's fixed supply. I believe.
Christian, these are the answers I need, dude.
No, I know.
These are the answers I need.
I know. But I'm trying to
supply?
remember. It is a fixed supply for sure. 100% it's fixed supply.
Okay.
Yes. And then Pirate Chain, ARRR. I know.
Okay.
I know. I can see it on your face. The technology.
What can you see on my face? What am I?
Well, it's Pirate Chain, but people are investing in Dogecoin
I went to
Shiba
Philip
Inu,
Pocock,
right?
home of the pirates. I'm on board with the Pirate Chain.
Yeah.
Let's go.
But anyway, the technology that Pirate Chain has is superior to Monero. It's a newer cryptocurrency.
Got it.
So at the end of the day, this is one of those things. Okay, what's going to happen in the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
And CBDCs will be introduced, and we will lose whatever privacy we have. Cash won't exist. It barely exists today. It won't exist at some point in the future. At that point, how can you secure some sort of privacy, financial, fiscal privacy?
It's important. Yeah.
It's very important. And I believe at some point, people are going to realize it, and there's going to be a massive run on privacy coins and privacy-based cryptocurrencies.
Mm-hmm. I have to look into Taproot. I can't remember what Bitcoin has introduced in Taproot that somehow increases some of its privacy. I forget exactly.
But I don't think it really matters.
You're not buying it. Okay.
No, and again, I love Bitcoin and I support it, and I want everybody to own it and buy it, and I have interest savings accounts, and I'm basically earning Bitcoin every month. It's an amazing thing.
You're saying you're a supporter of Bitcoin, but there's other things that you like these other coins for.
I'm not a maximalist, and the cryptocurrency space is way too exciting, and there's so much going on. It's
the only thing that I'm trying to figure out is that I've explained this a few times now, is that this so reminds me of tech from 1997 to 2004, when all the excitement was around all these other software programs that were being built that were really easy to use and promised great features, like single sign-on and security and ease of deployment. But then slowly over time, the better architecture that was being built under the surface was the web architecture. And the web architecture started out really slow, where to load something in 1997 on your screen, loading an image took like half an hour. But by 2004 and 5, we were putting our accounting data into the web. And the web architecture just crushed all these other software architectures. And a lot of that was client server. It was the Microsoft model, put a lot of software on the client, being your laptop or your desktop, and it would interface with a server. And then that was bullshit in the end from a computer standpoint, because then if you had to upgrade the clients, you had to go to each computer and upgrade each computer. And the web architecture was just this browser, and you would access a main computer in the back end. And the web architecture came out, and things like Salesforce.com came out. PeopleSoft came out and threatened Oracle, because Oracle's enterprise software was client server for a little while. Then they went web-based. So this architecture took way longer to develop, but then when it matured, it just absolutely annihilated everyone else. And part of me just thinks, okay, I know some of these other coins might have a great run, especially things like Ethereum. But I'm in the back of my mind, I'm always just very aware, what is being built on top of the Bitcoin architecture, because to me, that feels like the most solid foundation. And will it eventually just kind of wipe out some of these other ones? And I don't have the answer, and I'm not trying to say it happens overnight. Like something like Ethereum, I think, can go up 10x from here easy, right? Oh, I shouldn't have said that. Okay, maybe it goes up a little bit more. Yeah, not financial advice at all. But I just mean, when I saw the client server architecture that was wrong, Microsoft sold a shitload of client server stuff for years. And it went up like crazy in value until the web architecture kind of destroyed it. And I'm just wondering, are we replaying that? Is there this great architecture that's being built under Bitcoin kind of slowly and properly, and eventually just wipes out everything else? or not?
Yeah, I think eventually there's not going to be 7,000 cryptocurrencies left, obviously, right? But something like Ethereum, for example, I'm not a big Ethereum fan, but I do believe you should own some Ethereum. Like, I think it's riskier if you don't own these digital assets than not.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, because the space. I think the way to think of it, to your point, Christian, is that if all financial assets, and people are going to argue over the amount here, but if it's $300 to $500 trillion, and if you include debt, it's like 900 trillion. But whatever, everyone's arguing about that. And the current size of the entire crypto space is 2 trillion.
Yeah, it's like 2.6.
2.
Right
Whoa, nice.
Yeah,
2.7. Right on the
yeah.
game. Okay, 2.6 trillion. And all other financial assets are like, 3 to 500 trillion.
Yeah.
There's probably room for crypto to grow.
100%.
So to your point, yeah, it's more risky to be out of it entirely.
And I also think that institutions are looking for alternatives to Bitcoin. So a lot of institutional money will go into Bitcoin. Who knows how much, but I think some institutions are sitting down right now. It's like, you know what, Bitcoin's great and we're going to do like 1% or whatever. But I think Ethereum is going to get, Ethereum is the number 2 choice. And a lot of things are being built on it, right? But like I said, I own some Ethereum, but I'm not a maximalist of anything. I own many different altcoins, and there's also, it's a way to get free Bitcoin, right? Because if you invest in an altcoin and it goes to the moon, it doubles. You can trade it. You can trade your gains into Bitcoin, and you essentially.
What happens if it goes to zero, though?
Yeah,
you're a skilled trader. You're telling me you're a skilled trader.
No, I'm not a trader. I'm an investor, but you can do research and you can see certain patterns and.
Got it.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. You're just saying there's that much opportunity that you. Yeah, and I agree. There's just so much happening and so much opportunity. You can't ignore it. When I hear people say, "I'm not looking into this because I don't understand it," I almost feel for that. Yeah, I'm you have to.
This is the greatest wealth transfer, though.
Yeah, it's a new frontier.
Ever.
This is the discovery of the Americas all over again.
Yeah,
isn't it amazing that 200 years ago, we were trading these things called eels, which were the skin of a buck filled with bear grease, and the amount of these eels kind of hanging on your mantelpiece is what your wealth was stored in.
Really?
Because you used to trade these on the frontier. That was your anyway.
Is that
in 200 years?
We've come a long way.
Yeah.
Is that at the same time the seashells were monetary?
I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know.
Just a different part of the world, I guess.
So with all this going on, I'm curious, like, are you still holding on to your investment real estate properties? Where does that fit into your grand scheme of things? What's your thinking on that?
No, it's still very, very active in real estate. Actually, probably more active than ever before. As far as
why is that?
Because of the macro, because of what's going on right now, and not just right now. I think you guys do an amazing job at educating, people on owning assets and the importance of owning assets. I was a very conservative, risk-averse type of guy not too long ago.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Big time.
Then he met JP Kalb.
He's very calculated. Like, everything is super, super calculated.
Yeah, I'm a spreadsheet type of guy.
Yeah.
But anyway, owning assets has never been more important. And owning as many assets as possible, and physical is great. Like, real estate is fantastic. We live in a very unique part of the world. As much as
I feel like it's underreported. Yeah,
totally. And that's that again. Where's the media? Where's the version of the mainstream media on what's going on, why it's going on?
Property prices. Why are they behaving the way they are?
Either they really don't know what the heck is going on, or they're choosing not to report on it. So whatever it may be, I'm not getting my financial advice from them, right? So that's for sure. But yeah, own as many assets as possible, and I think it's never been more important than now. Right now, like and again, cryptocurrencies are digital assets, right? I mean, if you've listened to any Michael Saylor interviews on YouTube, I mean, Bitcoin is basically digital real estate, and it took me a long time to. Just like most of us, there's a massive learning curve. It's steep. It's time consuming. It's confusing, but once you get it, it's like
you panic. Once you get it, you panic.
Yeah, and then And then once in a while, so I'm done with Michael Saylor. Like, great guy, love the guy, he's a legend. But I'm kind of done with that. But once in a while, I'm like, you know what? He just did this interview yesterday. What do? I go online right away. Oh, I got to buy more Bitcoin.
You can't not listen to him and determine that you have enough Bitcoin. You listen to him, and at the end of any interview, you're like, oh my gosh, I need more Bitcoin.
Yeah, but it's digital. It's a digital asset. Cryptocurrencies are digital assets. You know, your son, for example, right? NFTs.
Oh, geez.
So I actually I ran into him at the VIP.
Oh,
event,
did you?
Right, yeah, and he showed me one of the NFTs, and I'm like,
did you get a good laugh or what?
No, I mean, I'm super pumped for him. Like, that's the coolest thing ever, right?
Reese Witherspoon just bought one of the ones that he has a collection of.
Oh.
So this was 2 days ago, and he was showing me this stuff, and I just remember, this is just fascinating. It's like fascinating to me.
But the most fascinating component is it's in Ethereum. The currency that they're using is ETH.
Yeah,
that's what it's getting me excited. Like, your profits, your gains, or even your losses, it's all in a digital currency that is not controlled by a central bank, by a government.
Yeah, when these things are listed for sale, it's listed in an Ethereum price.
It's amazing,
not a dollar price.
And I spoke to him. He fully understands it, and
it's so interesting for me because he seems to just get it. To him, it's like, this is happening. It's this much ETH in Canadian dollars, right? And that's the way he talks. Like, in Canadian dollars right now, it's this much, but it's this much ETH. Like, that generation, the Zoomers, I think that's referred to as the Zoomer. The amount of opportunity they have in front of them right now. Like, do you remember at the presentation we gave on Saturday? I don't know if you saw some of the investments in artificial intelligence, how much data is being created, how many satellites are hitting the orbit over the next 5 and 10 years, just on SpaceX's forecasts. Like, everything is going exponential. Yeah. This is to Jeff Booth's point. Like, the next 10 years, there's going to be more change in the next 10 years than the last 100. And I can see it.
Yeah, Jeff Booth, it was very interesting. So the cost of technology. So a few years ago, like 8 years ago, whatever, I had an interview at a company here in Oakville called Geotab.
Okay.
And they basically sell tracking software for like fleets and stuff, for cars and vehicles and trucks. Well, I just found a Samsung Galaxy Smart Tag on, Costco.ca, like 2 of them for $50.
Yeah.
And like, think about that for a second. That's $25 for a smart tag that you can put in your car, or you can attach it to your suitcase when you travel, and you can track it like anywhere in the world. Like, that's insane. $25. Like 10 years ago.
Extrapolate out 10 years from now, like, what is going to happen? And you know what? I feel like talking to millennials right now that get it, they're encouraged. Because they feel like when they first left school and came out, like, real estate prices were so high and the job market's kind of full of boomers still and controlled it. I'm not trying to pick on anybody specifically who has a job or whatever, but that's just the system that we live in. And now the ones that get it, who are like 25 or 26, they're like, the next 10 years is ours. To your point, Christian, there is a wealth transfer coming with so much being built in the digital space that the older generations don't get. That it's going to be fascinating. And I think the older generations are so dismissive of it because they can't hold it in their hand.
Yeah.
So they think, this is just, what is this? This is just games online, your Monero coin there, Christian, what is that, And it's really going to sneak up on everybody. So,
I mean, there's new crypto millionaires being born, so to speak, every day.
It's freaky.
I spend a lot of time on my CoinGecko app, like looking at charts and stuff. It's insanity. I've had it happen to me.
What are some of your favorite exchanges? You don't have to share all of them, but do you have a couple of favorite exchanges that you use to buy some of this stuff?
Well, I use BitBuy, I use CoinSmart, Newton, but then to get some of the smaller altcoins, like I use TradeOgre that's where you get some of the no-name privacy coins.
Okay.
And that's kind of part of the process too. So sometimes you have to get those high-risk coins on some of the exchanges that nobody's heard of, but that's why you're getting them at the very low price. You're getting in early. They're only on 1 or 2 exchanges, and then they start blowing up, and then other exchanges like, hey, that's a really good coin. That's a really good functionality, use case, blah, blah, blah. Now they open up on a few other exchanges and the price goes 10x, 20x, who knows, right? So, but yeah, I've used all kinds of stuff. I don't know. I have so many wallets and so many different
and
things.
Even on the mainstream stuff, like Ledin right here in Toronto is offering 6% interest on Bitcoin deposits and like 8 or 9% on USDC. I mean, this is actual interest I'm talking 6 to 9%, not like 0.05% or 0.25%.
Well, yeah. If you understand what Bitcoin is and that there's a company that gives you 6.1% interest on that, that's like compounding interest.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And there's and I guess some people would say yes, but you're giving up control to someone else to hold your Bitcoin. So you do have to kind of look into all this stuff. But yes, it's completely fascinating. And this stuff is growing like a weed. It's going to be interesting over the next few months, I think, to watch the stablecoin regulation. Because I feel like in the US, they've put out enough messages that they're going to come after Tether, USDC, some of these stable coins. They're going to regulate the crap out of them. That's going to be fascinating to see. I feel like that's their first target on regulation in a heavy way.
Probably. And I don't own any like I've thought about it so hard to get like USDC, right? On Ledin.
Yeah.
Because at the time it was like 12%.
12%. We bought some because I just had to. I had to see, is this real?
Yeah.
But then Ledin put in a nice piece of functionality on their website about 3 months ago where it was just this new button that existed. It said, do you want to click this button and change your USDC to Bitcoin? Mm-hmm. And the interest is less, of course, but it was just this button that you could press. And I was like, okay, I'll try this. I press the button. It's like, okay, now you have this much Bitcoin. I'm like, the world is changing forever.
Yeah.
The world is changing forever. So anyway, Christian, thank you for sitting down here. We didn't get into, there's so much more to talk to you about, but we really, is there anything else that you wanted to share today that's top of mind? Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing your journey down to Panama. Thank you for supporting Rockstar so much. You came across JP. We think the world, JP, for those of you listening, JP has been with Rockstar now, I feel like 12 and a half. I was going to say 10. Okay. 12 and a half years. So JP Galbis is one of the main coaches here at Rockstar that works with people like Christian. And I feel lucky to know you, JP, and we get to work together, and then meeting great people like you, Christian, and, getting to work here all together. And then I feel like all our interests are aligned where we're all trying to help each other out. And I just really feel thankful for this whole experience that we get to sit down here in the morning and drink tequila together. So thank you. Thank you.
Really good tequila too.
Yeah, thank you for this. And congrats, man. Congrats on doing this in Panama and pulling that off. That's a big achievement. Where's is that the flag? Hold up the flag. Let's see the whole flag. Let's see the flag. Let's see this flag. Dude, you got a big, you bought that when you were down there, I assume?
Yes.
That is a full-sized flag. Yeah, very cool, man.
I don't know where the camera is.
Yeah, very cool. It's right there. It's right there.
Oh, there?
There you go. There you go. Hold on. Tap the mic. There it is. Very cool, awesome. Man. Very cool. Congrats on that. That's a big accomplishment. Thank you. And thank you for sharing all this. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.